today, boys and girls and Eastway family, I am interviewing one of my friends and your friend too, Coach Jose. That's what we call him, Coach Jose. Jose, tell us your full name.
Full name is Jose Carlos Santibanez Valdovinos.
Santibanez?
Santibanez.
Santibanez.
Yes, there you go.
Got it. Yeah, I've been saying it wrong, but that's okay. That's okay. So, Jose has been working with us. Coach Jose has been working with us for I think 2 years now.
Yeah, 2 years.
Yeah, he's been doing some workshops at Eastway. He just came right in and went to work. That's what I love. Teaching our kids about this sport called futsal. Can you give us some more information about like what is futsal?
Yeah, so futsal is actually the fastest growing sport in the world. So it's the word comes from football sala, which is basically indoor soccer. So there's kind of like two stories behind the sport. Some people think it started like in Brazil. Some people started in Uruguay. The folks that think that, or that go with the Uruguayan story, is like a coach for the YMCA actually started it. And so they didn't have a lot of outdoor facilities. And so soccer is huge right in South America and across the world. And so they wanted to have more space, and they had a lot of gyms in this area. And they started just moving the game into indoors. Obviously, soccer typically is played like 11 against 11. So in a normal gym, right, you can't fit 22 people playing the game. And so they decided to reformat the game. They broke it down to 5 against 5, kind of like basketball. Obviously, a normal soccer ball too is like really, really bouncy. And so they changed the ball to be smaller, and it has low bounce. Because obviously you were playing with a normal soccer ball, you know, it'd be going all over the place in the gym. And so they kind of adapted to it. And so I think I try to describe it to the people that don't know much about it. It's kind of like soccer, basketball, and hockey mixed all together. And so there's some interesting rules too. But it's for the people that aren't really familiar with it, I think indoor soccer is probably the best way to describe it.
Thank you. So where are you from? Give us some background information about you.
I am Mexican. My mom and dad are both Mexican. I was born in Michoacan. In Lázaro Cárdenas is the city. The state is Michoacan. Family moved here when I was a year and a half. My mom was trying to leave an abusive relationship. You're right. Yeah. My mom was leaving an abusive relationship in Mexico. She already had some siblings, some sisters that had moved from Mexico to LA. And so, yeah, when I was about a year and a half, we moved to LA. So we lived in South Central LA. We lived in Compton for a little while. We lived in Inglewood for a little while. We lived in LA till I was about 8 or 9. And then we ended up moving to Durham when I was about, again, 8 or 9. And actually I went to Lakewood Elementary for 3rd grade. And that was my first time in Durham. And then I've been in Durham ever since. And I'll be 33 this November. So I'm pretty much from Durham now, but that's kind of like my backstory.
Yeah. So when you talk about futsal, like what was the whole concept behind starting and founding your organization, Full City Futsal?
Yeah, so the big thing for me, my background is in soccer, so I was a director for a club soccer organization in Chapel Hill. It's called Triangle United. I was there for 12 years total. I was a director for my last 3 years there. And just from being that was a nonprofit, but being in youth sports, specifically club soccer, I kind of saw how it wasn't really accessible to everyone, right? Club soccer, if you don't know, it's extremely expensive. You know, these families are paying anywhere from $1,500 to $2,000 plus every year. Depending on the level, right? And that's not including your travel, right? Your gas, the practices, the tournaments. Each team, depending on your level, has extra fees because you help pay for the coaches' gas mileage, their lunch, their dinner, depending on tournaments you go to. So if you play for a real competitive team, right, you could be going to 3-4 tournaments, right? It can be out of state. You got to stay in hotels, and then you got to pay for all the uniforms, right? So you know, depending on what level you play, right, it's anywhere between $1,500 to, I would say, something like $3,000 a year. So, you know, a lot of people can't afford that. I was a scholarship kid myself growing up in club soccer. And so I really wanted to make it accessible to everyone. also felt that a lot of the coaches, even some of the directors in the organization, kind of were just there for the soccer aspect of it, which is okay. Um, but I didn't feel like they were really interested in kind of helping out some of the families that were in their club, right? Kind of was like, hey, just come play soccer for us, and then that's it. Which okay, which is fine. But for me, I feel like if you work with kids, you should want to kind of help them out, right? And the whole idea behind Bull City Futsal is to be invested in their holistic development, right? As good futsal / soccer players, but also good people, and try to kind of mentor them and try to connect their families to resources.
So what's your goal like in the schools? I see a lot of girls too that are really gravitate towards it, even more than outdoor soccer.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's all about.
Yeah. So my goal, my end goal is to serve all of DPS. So there's about 30 schools in DPS. We are currently in 10, so we're about a third of the schools already. And obviously, I think each school would be a little bit different, right? I don't expect to work with every single kid in the school, but maybe 10 kids here, 20 kids there. Our biggest program was Neal Middle School and Get This Middle School. One, because they're such a big school, and as you know, right, our schools are overpopulated. And like for instance, I would go work with those gym classes, and they had anywhere from like 60 to like 80 kids in their class. There's multiple teachers in there, right? So maybe 2 to 3 teachers. But still, even for one teacher, right, you're talking about 30 some kids, which is to me is a lot. And so we were able to work with pretty much all their 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. And so, I mean, we had about 200-300 kids just in that one school, right? But some of our after school programs are a little bit smaller, about 10 to 30, depending on where we're at. Obviously working with Eastway, you got about 25 right in your class, I would say, right?
At the most.
At the most, right? So about 20, something like that. So, so my goal is to keep them in the program from elementary school to middle school to high school, right? And then for the high schools, it'd be more so, hey, now that you've been through our program, can you come back and kind of be like the big brother, big sister, kind of like a mentor for the younger kids, and then also hopefully provide them with like job opportunities, right? Or volunteer opportunities. Like, hey, do you want to come ref this game? You want to be an assistant coach? Do you want to volunteer at our tournaments? And then hopefully try to kind of just keep the community involved, right? Even their families involved. Hopefully.
What are some issues or some pressing concerns that you see within the Latino community, Hispanic community in Durham?
In Durham, it's a lot. I think it's particular to what I see. Again, the whole idea for the program is, can we make it accessible? Can we make it affordable, right? And so being able to come into the schools was I think super beneficial to us. Being able to work with more kids, right, and build those relationships with the schools. Something that we've had to deal with COVID is that now we're not able to come into the schools because the schools are virtual, right? And DPS is closing facilities now. And so, like for our summer programs, we had big plans about a free league for all our participating schools. We had kind of shift away from that into just like a no contact skill development session. And from just having it change to, hey, now you have to come to Duke Park, right, which is pretty central to Durham, right, but most of our schools are in East Durham. We saw a big demographic shift in our programs. So it was predominantly now upper middle class white families instead of middle class and lower middle class, black and brown families, which is the goal for me, obviously. So I think from just seeing that, and as you know, too, transportation is a big thing, right? And even though we made most of the programs free, there were some programs that you did have to pay, and so obviously the affordable aspect of it too, I think is a big thing too. So I think really just accessibility, the family life, like especially I think in the Hispanic Latinx community, right, is a lot of our kids have a lot of adult responsibilities at home, right? You can start as young as elementary school or middle school, right? If you're the older sister or older brother, a lot of times in these families you are the second mom, the second dad, right? Especially now with COVID, if you have kids at home, right? Mom and dad got to go to school. I know there's a lot of kids that are probably in middle school or even 5th grade, I would say, right? They're watching their little kids, right? And trying to help them out through this virtual schooling process too. So. So I don't know if that answered your question, but
it did. So I'm gonna like to let this be the last question. And it's gonna be kind of a two-part question. Like, what do you need as far as the organization is concerned? Like from the community, from schools, what kind of needs do you have? And also, if you could just give us some parting words of encouragement or
Okay.
some wisdom, if you like, to our students.
Okay. I would say the biggest need that I've seen right now, and it's kind of so I took a class. I was talking to Ms. Watson here before, off camera, before we started the video. So I took a nonprofit management class not too long ago, and I like quotes. People like, because I think quotes make you feel something, right? Or people's words make you feel something. And so there was a quote that said, sometimes nonprofits that maybe have a different mission, right, or they try to stay true to their mission, make bad business decisions all the time, right? And so for me, right, obviously I think the funding is the biggest thing that I had to deal with in terms of like, if I want to make it free and accessible to as many people as I can, right, I really try to take the money out of it, right, because I know that does affect a lot of people. And so it's been kind of like, how can I make my program sustainable, right? By sustainable meaning, hey, do we have enough money coming in so that I can continue to provide the program that I want, right, at a high level? But how can I do that without asking our participants to pay money, right? And so part of that is, maybe partnering with schools, right? And I know schools have budgets for this type of programs that I do, but just the way that I am and what I want for the program is like, I'd rather that money go somewhere else, right? And I know somebody has to pay for it, and actually that's my job to figure it out. And so I would say financial support from the community, but specifically I think financial support from people that look like us. So my whole idea is, right, this program is for people like us. Can we get our own, right, to support our own, right?
Yeah.
So that's one big thing. I think financial support from Black and brown business owners, Black and brown organizations. So the financial support, and then also I think something that I've struggled with too is finding a lot of Black and brown volunteers. And I know that's, so actually that's a big complex, I think, I guess issue, right? Where I know when I was younger, I don't think if somebody would have asked me to come volunteer for this type of program, I would have maybe done it. I don't know, it's maybe I didn't have to see the value in it, right? But I also know that from a young age, right, I had to start working to get money so that I didn't have to ask my mom for money, right? Because I knew my mom was struggling to raise, right, 4 kids on her own. And so from an early age, selling candy, t-shirts, CDs, whatever, right? And so I think back then, if you were asking me, hey, come volunteer, basically come work for free, right? In my mindset, it's like, well, I don't have that time. Right? I don't have that luxury to come and kind of give my time away where, so I think that's something, unfortunately, that still a lot of our, especially high school, Black and brown kids, right, have to deal with where, again, maybe they have responsibilities at home where they have to pay for, they have to pay for their own stuff. Maybe they got to help out at the house, or they got to help out with the, younger siblings. So that's something that I've struggled with, trying to find Black and brown volunteers, because I think representation is very important. And again, I want our staff to look like the kids that we work with, right? As you know, right, I've gone into a lot of these schools, and the workforce is predominantly young white women, right? And then when you go into the schools, it's about 80-90% Black and brown kids, right? And so there's nothing wrong with that, but I think obviously now that I'm older, I do see the effect, right, and the impact that having leaders and mentors that look like you can have on you, right? And so as I'm older now, I'm a parent, right? I think I see the benefit of that too. So I would say more financial support from the Black and brown community, and also just support in terms of volunteer and staff.
Well, we appreciate you coming to talk to us today. I appreciate first of all, your integrity. You do what you say you're gonna do, be where you say you're gonna be, and your gift, using your gift to the maximum amount. I really, really, really do appreciate you.
Thank you. And I appreciate you too. You've been awesome, and I know the kids love you, and I love you. So thank you for the opportunity.
Bye,
see y'all.
Coach Jose. Oh, that was awesome.